Yes, sir. Robberies one.
Ms. Rivers, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Great, good afternoon. We're going to go on the record in the matter of the state versus Lindsay Kallish. It is 20 SC 176922. And my understanding, Mr. Zimmerman, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Is that this is a plea hearing? Okay. Is it a negotiated or a non-negotiated plea?
It's negotiated, Your Honor. We're just filling out the paperwork.
All right. Mr. Hiles, you ready to go?
I am, Your Honor.
How have you been?
Pretty well. How about yourself?
All right. When you say the paperwork, it's the plea form? Okay. We'll do electronic signatures unless you want it otherwise. Can you make sure if you're going to be operating from there that you're near a microphone? You need to, wherever you're going to be, it needs to be near a microphone.
I was going to, I'll play and sit at the witness stand.
Okay. And Mr. Zimmerman, either you all can either be at the podium or at council table. I don't have a preference as long as you're both near a microphone.
Okay. Let me do the podium.
Okay. Then you'll both need to go on up to the podium.
We'll do that now.
I do.
Okay.
Now you see what these poor witnesses have to go through to
I do.
get the.
I do.
All right, let me see if there's a better way to do this. All right, here we go. Okay. So we're on the record. Mr. Zimmerman, my understanding is that you and your client are prepared to go forward with a plea colloquy. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Kallish or Kallish?
Kallish. Your Honor.
Kallish. I got it right. That's how it's spelled. Ms. Kallish, the way this is going to work is that in a moment, Mr. Hiles is going to put you under oath. Once you're under oath, you'll need to answer all of his questions and mine, truthfully and completely. My job is to answer any questions you have, but the only way I'll know if you have questions is if you let me or Mr. Zimmerman know. And if at any point during our conversation, you need to speak with Mr. Zimmerman in confidence, just let me know. You guys can go back to the table. You can even step outside the courtroom. I don't think anything should come up that prompts that, but you've got a right to confer with Mr. Zimmerman while we have this conversation. So will you let me know if you have questions or concerns?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Hiles, before you put Ms. Kallish under oath, She is charged in most of the counts. Is this a plea to all of the counts or how, excuse me, is this being structured?
So it would be structured as follows. Counts 2 through 8, and it will be a reduction from armed robbery to robbery.
It's a plea only to counts 2 through 8? Or you're working your way down the list?
I'm working my way down.
So you skip count 1?
That count 1 would be no process, I believe. What is?
1 is home invasion.
Yes. Yeah. So that one is no process.
Okay, 2 through 8 are the armed robberies. Those are being reduced to robbery.
Yes, that's OCGA 16-8-40. And then it would be a plea to count number 18, participation in criminal street gang activity, with the remainder of the counts to be null prost.
All right, so 2 through 8 reduced to robbery, 18, the gang activity, everything else null prost or dismissed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Got it. I can follow that. Okay, when you're ready.
Okay. And would you like the recommendations?
However you want to do it.
I'll go ahead and just give it. The recommendation is to be 15 years on probation. The special condition being no contact of any of the listed with any of the listed victims in the indictment, no participation in criminal street gang activity, and no contact with criminal street gang members. All right. Ms. Kallish, will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter currently before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, you can put your hand down. Please state your true, correct, and legal name.
Lindsay Jordan Kallish.
Are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
I am not.
Is there any medications that you normally take that you have not taken today?
I am not.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
What is your highest level of education?
College.
Okay.
Did you graduate from college or you have some college?
I completed a certificate program through college after all this happened.
What does that mean? Like it's a certificate in
Paralegal.
paralegal?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
I am.
Okay. Do you understand that you are pleading guilty to counts 2 through 8 of this indictment, which have been reduced from armed robbery to robbery? Do you understand?
I understand.
Do you understand that you are also pleading guilty to count number 18, participation in criminal street gang activity? Do you understand?
I understand.
And do you understand that each count of robbery carries with it a potential sentence of 1 to 20 years?
I understand.
And do you understand that the participation in criminal street gang activity carries with it a potential sentence of 5 to 20 years?
I understand.
Do you understand that you have the right to either plead guilty or not guilty to these charges?
I understand.
Do you understand that if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial?
I understand.
Have you reviewed the waiver of rights form, also known as the plea of guilty form, with your attorney?
I have.
And I know I'm far away, but I am showing you a form that has your name, Lindsay Kallish, at the top, stated plea of guilty statement. Is this the waiver of rights and plea of guilty statement form that you went over with your attorney, Mr. Zimmerman?
Correct.
And is those your initials by each of the rights you're waiving?
Yes, sir.
And on the last page, I'm sorry, the second to last page, where it says signed under penalty of perjury the 16th day of May, is that your signature on the line that is marked defendant?
Yes, sir.
Have you had enough time to speak with your attorney about all of the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charges in this indictment, including any potential defenses?
Yes, sir.
Do you need any more time to discuss this case with your attorney?
No, sir.
Are you satisfied with your attorney's services?
Very much so.
Mr. Zimmerman, do you waive formal reading of this indictment for purposes of this plea?
Yes.
And Mr. Zimmerman, do you waive any and all defects in this indictment, including any with respect to your client's name for purposes of this plea?
We do waive those.
Do you understand, Ms. Kallish, do you understand that this is a negotiated plea of guilty, which means that there is a joint recommendation of both your counsel and the state as to 15 years of probation to the 7 counts of robbery and the 1 count of participation in criminal street gang activity? Do you understand?
I understand.
And do you understand, however, that the court does not have to accept that recommendation and that the court can sentence you to the maximum on each charge and can run those sentences consecutively or one after the other? Do you understand?
I understand.
Do you understand that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction as well as in other jurisdictions, including in federal courts?
I understand.
Do you understand that if you are currently on probation or parole, your probation or parole may be revoked based on entering a guilty plea today?
I understand.
And do you understand that if you are placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to the revocation of the balance of your sentence? Do you understand?
I understand.
And do you understand that you are not allowed to possess nor use a firearm while on probation?
I understand.
Ms. Kallish, are you a United States citizen?
I am.
Do you understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be from a conviction following a trial? For example, your guilty plea may affect the right to vote, may affect the right to obtain employment, or will affect your right to transport or possess a firearm. Do you understand?
I understand.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
I do.
I'm going to go through these next rights, known as the Boykin rights, individually, okay? Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up the right to trial by jury?
Yes.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to confront witnesses against you?
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to assistance of counsel hired by you or to court-appointed counsel if you cannot afford an attorney at a trial of your case?
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to the presumption of innocence?
Correct.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence?
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to subpoena witnesses and compel the production of evidence?
Correct.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to have the charges against you proved beyond a reasonable doubt?
Correct.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after a trial?
Yes.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea?
No.
Is it your decision to waive these rights and to enter a guilty plea because you are in fact guilty?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Kallish, are you asking to tender this plea under the provisions of the First Offender Act?
Yes.
Have you discussed all of the ramifications of entering a plea under the First Offender Act?
Yes.
And do you understand that if you enter a plea under the First Offender Act, that if you violate the terms of your probation or violate Georgia law, you could be subject to the revocation of your first offender sentence, adjudicated guilty, and sentenced up to the max on each charge that you have pled to? Do you understand?
Correct.
Okay. How do you plead to counts 2 through 8 robbery?
Guilty.
How do you plead to count 18 participation in criminal street gang activity?
Guilty.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with full knowledge of the charges against you?
Correct.
Do you understand that you have only a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Correct.
Do you understand that you have only 4 years from this date from today's date to file what is known as a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness and or constitutionality of your guilty plea.
Yes.
And do you understand that you have only until the end of this current term of court to file any motions requesting to withdraw your guilty plea today? Do you understand?
I understand.
Okay. Your Honor, were this case to go to trial, the facts would show that on the evening hours of November 7th of 2019, Lindsay Kallish and her friend Lauren Riley were hanging out at the apartment of a YSL member known as Voss Coleman, along with several other members of YSL. Also present at that party was an individual by the name of Max Pritchett, who went by Rick Rare. While at this party, Miss Kallish and Miss Riley received a Snapchat from one of the victims named Christian Riggs. In that Snapchat, it was an invitation to a Halloween party at an Airbnb located at 1040 Wiley Street, which is City of Atlanta, Fulton County. Instead of going to that party as an invitee, Miss Riley stated that the individuals present should, quote, hit a lick, meaning rob the party, because that invitation in that Snapchat picture contained what appeared to be large amounts of drugs as well as cash. At that time, particularly Miss Riley and Mr. Pritchett and Voss Coleman engaged in planning the robbery of this Airbnb and solicited the help of an individual by the name of Tyrone Robinson, who went by the name Baby Slat. In the early morning hours of November 8th, 2019, Lauren Riley drove Lindsay Kallish, Tyrone Robinson, and Max Pritchett to the Airbnb located at 1040 Wiley Street. The two males remained in Miss Riley's car while Miss Kallish and Miss Riley entered the property, and they, upon entering the property, they scoped the location of the drugs and cash, and a picture was sent from Miss Riley's phone to Miss Kallish's phone, which was in the car with the two boys who were waiting in the car armed. Miss Riley stole some of the drugs at the party herself, ran out of the house, and after Miss Riley was out of the house, while Miss Kallish was still in the house, the two males entered the house armed with assault-style handguns and masked. While in the house, the DJ of the party, Vikyat Gatani, was pistol whipped several times, causing severe lacerations to his head as well as a fractured skull. His personal property was taken from him, as well as the Holden Carmody, Jackson Buckingham Heil, Rebecca Mears, Christian Riggs, Christian Hooper, and Noah Walker were all held at gunpoint as well, with their personal property being taken from their persons and at gunpoint. At some point during this home invasion and armed robbery, Ms. Kallish can be seen fleeing from the front door, and the individuals can still be heard screaming at the victims inside. Ms. Kallish runs down the street and is eventually picked up in the car by Miss Riley and the other two males that went into the house. The four individuals then returned to Voss Coleman's apartment in Midtown, where the proceeds of the robbery, which turned out to be drugs, was dumped on the bed, and it was agreed that Tyrone Robinson and Max Pritchett would sell the THC edibles and then give some of the proceeds to Miss Kallish and Miss Riley. I should also note that the wallets and the cell phones of the victims that were taken from their person were thrown from the car, from Miss Riley's car, as Robinson, Pritchett, Riley, and Kallish fled from the scene, with all of those proceeds being recovered by either neighbors or some of the unhoused individuals in the neighborhood. It was very apparent from the video surveillance in the actions of Miss Riley and Miss Kallish that those were the two that were somehow connected to the armed robbery and home invasion based on their actions inside. The end of Miss Kallish and Miss Riley were identified through the assistance of some of the victims as well as Instagram. And then about 8 days after the incident, Miss Kallish and Miss Riley voluntarily came to APD headquarters to interview and give a statement. It was at that time that the two were taken into custody. And after being taken into custody, Miss Kallish then described how the events of the robbery were planned. Though she initially denied any involvement and tried to distance herself from the crime, she did turn around and was crucial in identifying the two male gunmen that went into the house and physically committed the armed robbery. Your Honor, Ms. Kallish, as you are aware, did testify for the state at trial, truthfully, we believe, and consistent with her later proffers after she was released from custody. Part of the reason of the state's offer to reduce the crimes, reduction in crimes in a, I guess, relatively low sentence compared to what the other individuals were offered and sentenced to after trial is because of, one, her cooperation in this case, but also her actions after she was granted bond by Judge Ashley. She was granted bond over the state's objection. She followed all of her bond conditions, and as time went on, she was granted more and more flexibility to obtain employment as well as to finish school. She, by the end of, just prior to the trial of Robinson and Pritchett 2 months ago, or a month ago, she had completed her paralegal certificate and was working 2 jobs while living with her parents. And this entirety of this time, though she had some freedom to go to work and come back, for the most part, outside of work, school, and medical appointments, she was on house arrest, with the exception of a couple of concessions by the state to visit some ailing grandparents out of state. It was, so a lot of the state's recommendation to reduce comes from not only her cooperation, but also her, I believe, remorsefulness for the crime, as well as acknowledgement of her role, but a outward showing of the ability and intent to better herself. That would be all from the state at this time, Your Honor.
Do you have any victim impact statements you want to share?
I do. If you would allow me, none of the victims wanted to speak personally, but they did provide a statement, and I had it pulled up on my computer. If you'd allow me to grab that.
I will allow you to grab that.
Your Honor,
Your Honor, this is a victim impact statement. It was provided by Holden Carmody. The other individuals, victims in this case that I reached out to, they were informed of the sentencing, but indicated that they did not want to prepare a statement or were not available to speak due to work obligations.
Can you remind me, I got to meet all of them. Which one was Mr. Carmody? Was he the person who had rented the house?
He was one of the individuals, Mr. Carmody, Mr. Riggs, and no, I'm sorry, he was not.
There was someone who basically, this is where he was staying. Like he wasn't able to stay with his parents.
Christian Riggs was the
That's
individual.
Riggs.
Riggs was the individual that Mr. Carmody was the one who had bleached hair, and his Invisalign was stolen.
Ah, the Invisalign. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Remember.
So, and it's entitled, dated May 14th, 2024, entitled Victim Impact Statement of Holden Carmody, addressed to the judges and parole boards of Pritchett, Robinson, Kallish, and Riley. It's regarding State of Georgia v. Kallish, Pritchett, Riley, and Robinson, indictment 20 SC 176992, and reads as follows. I have been forever changed by the traumatic events of the home invasion and assault conducted and planned by the persons named. The experience occurred several months after I graduated from high school and immediately pushed me into a flight mode to escape and try to forget the near-death events. I chose to, quote, run to an unknown city, away from the support of my family, and I attempted to self-medicate by living a fast life with an unhealthy crowd of people. I spent nearly 2 years trying to avoid the feelings and engaged in bad behaviors. I distanced myself from my family. I didn't hold down a steady job and was generally lost. They stole my Invisalign braces, and because I left my home and my established doctors, I couldn't get a new set and proceed with my dental plan. My braces were not strictly for cosmetic reasons, and even if I had tried to renew the treatment plan in California, I didn't have the money to do so and lacked the skill set as a young man to navigate the dental system on my own. Avoiding the dentist and orthodontics has caused me additional and compounded oral health problems. I believe that it is fair to state that by running and delaying my education, plans for college, and removing myself from my family support, I have suffered financially because my life moved off track. Witnessing the brutal violence of a person being beaten with a weapon while crying out for their life is traumatic. The memories can loop in my brain and put me into a form of panic. There are several triggers that cause me to struggle daily. Since the assault, I struggle with trust in people and in settings. I continue to have a habit of avoiding my back to doors and feeling that if I had a weapon during the invasion, I would have been safer. This attitude is at odds with my family and is a cause of great distress in our relationship. I have sought counseling at times and know I need something consistent in that regards because I am forever changed and affected by the nightmare of a gun to my head. Sincerely, Holden M. Carmody.
Thank you. We have someone from pretrial on. Could I ask you a couple questions? Ms. Washington, hello.
Hey, yes, you can. You can ask me some questions.
Okay. What criminal history information do you have for Ms. Kallish?
I have one prior arrest cycle, not including the charges in this matter. There were a total of 3 arrest cycles, but that would include this matter. No felony convictions were listed, and the defendant did go through a pretrial diversion program, which resulted in a dismissal of the first arrest cycle. Nothing further.
What was that first arrest cycle for?
It was for possession of a Schedule II controlled substance, and that was out of DeKalb County.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Mr. Zimmerman.
Your Honor,
you submitted letters to you the other day. Obviously, you replied that you had them. I got a few more letters just given to me as people walked in. I don't know if you want to look at them or you're okay with what you have.
Unless there's something really, really different in them, I take it that Ms. Kallish is a great neighbor, a great lacrosse teammate, works very hard at Goose Dumplings and other places. She's a great sister, et cetera, et cetera. She has a lot of folks who support her and many people who are very impressed with the direction Ms. Kallish has taken after what has been described as unfortunate events, poor choices, not robberies with guns, et cetera, but she's got a lot of support. So unless there's something new in there, I feel well immersed in that feeling.
You have the same, it's the theme, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm going to just speak a little bit and we'll let Ms. Kallish do more of the speaking. But before I came here, lying in bed last night, thinking about what I could tell you about Ms. Kallish, where we were, so at the beginning to where we are now.
Did you work with her from the outset?
From day one. And I was struggling with what to think about, because what to tell you, because it has a case for so long. We've got to know, I say we, I have my paralegal sitting here, Charles Middlestat, who's defense investigator, intern. Other than our intern, we've known Lindsay for a long time, known her family. When Charles and I actually first got a call on Saturday after Thanksgiving 2019 from Lindsay's dad saying, "Thank God you answered the phone." It was like 8 o'clock at night. He's like, "We just called Bruce Harvey, but he didn't answer." So I picked up the phone, got involved, got with Charles. We went down to the jail a day or two later to see Lindsay down at, I guess, Union City Jail. And she was scared, remorseful, in a terrible place mentally. Couldn't believe what she got herself involved in. She'd been involved with, pills, drugs, wanting to live a different, loose and fast life. Got involved with some guys that was a little beyond her grasp, and things just spiraled. She was scared she could go to prison for the rest of her life. She knew what she did was wrong. She comes from a great family. She's a smart kid. She had a good life before this, just took a wrong turn. She had a scholarship to play lacrosse. By all accounts, this was not the person that anybody ever thought she would be. At some point, a couple months later, we were able to successfully work out a bond. She immediately wanted to cooperate and help, and Charles and I met with Mr. Hiles and Detective Maldonado, and she provided a statement. She was crucial because nobody else could really identify Robinson and Pritchett. I remember back then, Mr. Paul Howard didn't want our involvement, but Mr. Hiles impressed upon him that it was important because they needed her specifically to identify the other two. Lauren McCulley, who she's going to come today. She told me that she remembers listening to the jail calls when Lindsay was in jail and remembers how remorseful Lindsay was just on the phone calls for her family compared to the other perpetrator, Miss Riley, who was not as remorseful. She got bond. She went home to very strict circumstances, had home confinement, living with her parents. She got a job. She was not allowed to be on social media. She followed all those rules to the T. I don't think there's any violations whatsoever. During that time, Max Pritchett had a probation revocation hearing, which Lindsay did go, and that was her first time. She testified against him twice. She testified against Max Pritchett at that hearing. In fact, sort of funny side note, as I was driving down to the courthouse, got a call from Miss McCulley that Lindsay was in court and she needed stockings because she probably would look better. And so I just stopped at the Walgreens over on Marietta Street. That's about to go out of business, and get some stockings to bring to the courthouse.
You're her personal shopper as well.
Yeah, because Lauren said she looked like more like Lindsay's going to go to a club than to testify. But she didn't know. My fault for not telling her maybe to dress a little bit different. But my point in telling you all this is because it's been a arc from who she was when we first met her to where we are today. She my daughter plays high school lacrosse. Lindsay even recommended her coach when my daughter wanted to play goalie. So Lindsay's old coach and former teammate Julie has been my daughter's coach the last few years, tutoring her, training her. Julie couldn't be here today. But Lindsay is not the person she was in 2019. And, thankfully, I say thankfully, not thankfully that we had COVID, but thankfully she had the opportunity that when unfortunately we had the pandemic, this slowed down the case, obviously along with Max Pritchett and sovereign citizen stuff, but that slowed down the case because she was able to spend time at home, work on herself, spend time with her friends, her family, and make something really of herself to have a future. Because the way things looked at the beginning, she was gonna have absolutely no future whatsoever. And she is a changed person. I can't, she calls me, she texts me. I just want to read to you what she sent me for my birthday. Because she's a big heart. On my birthday, last May 4th, she texted me, "Happy birthday. You're my real life Superman, and I appreciate all your hard work and dedication. You deserve to have the best day ever. Enjoy your concert." Went to Colorado for a concert. So that's the type of person she's probably always been. She took a pretty bad right turn for a while, but she's back on track. Everybody here today is for Lindsay. I assume, right? Everybody's here, right? Yep, okay.
It's okay not to be for Lindsay. You're not required to if you're here. To be clear.
I don't know everybody's face. I'm just making sure. Richard Elliott's here too. She has a lot of support, and she's really come a long way, thankfully. And she'll do great things. She's been working at Tappers, Goose Dumpling. She's a personal trainer out at Crunch. And I also want to thank Reeves, because honestly, it's the first time I did really put my trust in a prosecutor for the last 5 years and really just trust that we'd end up in the right place at some time. Because there's never really any promise of where we'd be or what he'd recommend. But I did have a lot of faith in him and got a little nervous when there's a little bit of a switch. But I do thank you for your hard work in communicating and working with me and working with us. It's been a long road. And we're happy we're finally here today. It's not a graduation that we want, but certainly a graduation of different sort. And we ask that you accept the recommendation. I'm going to let Ms. Kallish take it from here.
Before I hear from her, I have read the many letters minus whatever you just received. Is there anyone else who's going to be saying anything on her behalf? Because I'd like to interact with Ms. Kallish last. So if there is anyone else, now is the time rather than after.
I think we're mostly okay. Is there anybody who feels the need? We're fine, Your Honor.
All right. So you want to go first or you want me to go first? I mean, I have some questions, but if you have some things you want to say and want to get those out,
I
maybe
think
you'll
so.
answer some of my questions and then I don't need to ask them, but we can do it either way.
If
Why
that's
don't
all
you-
right, I'd speak. I
I
would like
asked her to
speak
write
first.
something that she could look at because she's very nervous. So
I can understand why you're nervous and it's fine to read something. And if you have difficulty reading it, hand it to Superman and he will read it.
listen, I'm nervous too because I care.
You'll get through it.
Might need to.
So, yeah. Okay.
You might need to.
You know which door you're going out.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, Mr. Hiles, and members of the court. First, I want to apologize. I'm sorry to the victims and their family for the trauma, pain, and suffering that was caused, and to my family and friends that I have disappointed as a result. I am filled with deep regret and remorse with my involvement in the incident that occurred on November 8th, 2019. I am so sorry for what the victims had to go through, and I truly hope that they are able to move past this and live fulfilling lives. No one deserves to have their life threatened and be put in such a dangerous situation. I don't think that they will be able to forgive me and my poor decisions, but I want them to understand the full sincerity of my words. I stand before you, Your Honor, the court, friends, and family, not as the 19-year-old naive girl, but as someone who has dedicated the past 4.5 years of my life to create the best version of Lindsay Kallish. This includes boundaries, morals, values, productivity, helping others, and selflessness. The journey began with the realization of the harm that I inflicted on others and myself. It was truly a wake-up call and a moment of clarity that forced me to face the consequences of my actions. During my time in custody, I learned invaluable lessons on accountability, empathy, and the severity of my actions. It wasn't easy, but I found the strength in the support of my loved ones and the ones who believed in my ability to change. After being released from physical confinement, it was the start of a second chance. With the strict conditions of my bond, I severed the relationship I had with drugs, social media, and people who did not have my best interests. Realizing and learning that true fulfillment comes within my identities and my values. True fulfillment does not come from external validation or substances. I discovered that I found fulfillment in being more present with my family, the joy of genuine connections, the satisfaction of being true to myself, the importance of integrity and empathy in all my interactions. Testifying against others was a terrifying challenge, but I did not let the fear steer me away from speaking the truth. It was the right thing to do, not just for myself, but for the victims as well. I am committed to making amends with my past to pay back what I helped cause and turning my remorse into positive actions. Every day I try to be a better person than I was yesterday, to live with purpose and show compassion and integrity towards anyone I meet. This is not a journey I can face alone. I'm overwhelmed with the support shown from my friends, family, and unexpected allies. I'm extremely thankful to my legal counsel for his dedication, diligence, and compassion. I would not be here today if it were not for you. I would like to thank the prosecution for their patience, understanding, and acceptance and recognition of my transformation. Your Honor, Judge McBurney, I would like to thank you for being so patient, fair, and approving of the amendments of my bond. As I look to the future, I am filled with confidence and determination that I will achieve great things. Through years of therapy, I have learned that I cannot have my past define me. If it were not for this incident, I would not be where I am today. I would probably be dead. The past 4 years have been the most difficult years of my life emotionally, and up until this day where I hope to get some clarity, it has been hard to be excited about a future when I am unsure of the outcome today. Through this journey of self-discovery and growth, I've accomplished many things that are proof that I can be a productive member of society and to be of a service to others. The journey has only begun, and I would like to thank you for believing in me, giving me this opportunity and the understanding of second chances.
Thank you for sharing that. Tell me, at the ripe old age of 23 and the amount of time you've had to reflect, why you think you ended up in Las Coleman's apartment that night. I don't mean like specifically, Lauren called me, but like what in your life led you from being star lacrosse player at Northview High School, supportive family. You are benefiting from a lot of things that I can't tell what was going on with Mr. Pritchett's family, but life is about comparisons, and I need to compare you with the other people who were involved in this case. And Mr. Robinson, I don't think, had many of the breaks you had in life. And that's not his fault. It's not your fault. It's just sort of the reality. But I can chart his trajectory more clearly. He had all sorts of issues, juvenile court, et cetera, and you see a grim path. And he found family through whatever sect of YSL we were dealing with. Your course doesn't make sense to me. And so I'd like you to tell me, now that you've had 4.5 years to think about it, however long it's been, why you ended up in Vas Coleman's apartment that night.
I always felt like I needed to belong somewhere. And in high school, it was hard to keep friends. And then I got out, and Lauren, who I thought was my best friend, it felt almost secure in a way that I had somebody. It was a sense of belonging. It was a sense of like lust and greed. I would see all these people on Instagram and rappers, what I thought was a great life with a bunch of money, and they didn't have to work. And it was very infatuating. And I was very drawn to that, a sense of belonging, a sense of doing whatever I need to feel accepted.
Okay, I think I understand that. Keeping up with the comparisons, Mr. Pritchett got a second chance. He was involved in a real serious thing where someone died, a home invasion. They just didn't get to call it that because there wasn't a felony ultimately inside the house. And his lawyer argued persuasively in front of another judge to give Max Pritchett another chance because he had done well in high school, et cetera, young, not much of a criminal history, a lot like you in some respects. And it doesn't seem like it was a good idea to say you should have a second chance. That did not end well for the DJ at the party. It did not end well for any of those folks who were held at gunpoint. And we heard how this has affected Mr. Carmody, and he didn't have his head cracked open. He had his Invisaligns taken, but it's affected him in a way that shouldn't happen to anyone. Why am I not going to see you in 3 years with Mr. Zimmerman at your side saying, Judge, it's okay. I know it's the second time, but really we need to give Ms. Kallish a third chance.
I've taken these years to change every aspect of how I thought, what I was doing, who I was hanging out with, the stuff I was indulging in. I've changed all that. I don't find fulfillment in it anymore. I don't think I involve myself with bad people. Everybody's here to support me. They're all coworkers, friends who all have my best interests. But each and every day, I try to be better than the last and show empathy towards myself, because I can't punish myself forever, but to move past that and just continue to be on a good path. If that answered your question.
It did. No, and you are showing me that you have, it's not just what people have written here. You've actually been processing what you went through, and in some ways, more importantly, what you put other people through. I'm not putting the gun in your hand. You weren't the one with the gun, but you knew how this was going to go down. And everyone is fortunate that the way it went down is that no one was killed, because I'll bet you a large sum, more than rappers make, that had someone died as a result of this, Mr. Hiles wouldn't be saying 15 years probation. Correct. It might be less than the people who did the shooting, but it wouldn't, this opportunity that you and your lawyer have been able to create for yourself, I don't think would have been on the table. And there's not much separating that outcome from what happened. The guns were there, the people were there, and you never know. Again, you were out of the house by then, but someone in the house has a gun, and then you've got someone with a gun pointing a gun at someone with a gun, and that never ends well. So it was a real messy situation you were in. Okay. Well, I appreciate very much, Mr. Zimmerman, the work you did to paint a comprehensive picture of what Ms. Kallish has been doing since the incident, but also what she was like before the incident. And that's helpful in a way that I don't always get when I'm confronted with a complicated sentencing. This is a gray situation. Ms. Kallish wasn't the one with the mask and the gun, but she also wasn't someone who simply provided a tip and then said, hey, you guys do with it what you will. Do you have any questions about anything, Ms. Kallish?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I find that there's a factual basis for your plea. I'm pretty familiar with the facts of the case. And so I'll accept your plea. I also find that your plea is knowing and voluntary. Voluntary means no one's forcing you to enter this plea. You are standing here next to Mr. Zimmerman because you've decided this is the right way forward. You know, you could go to trial. The jury could hear all about it, and you're choosing instead to enter a plea. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. And a knowing plea just means you've understood all about your rights to have a trial and the fact that your lawyer could cross-examine witnesses, et cetera, et cetera. Knowing all those things, you're agreeing to waive those rights and enter a plea. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. I need to talk to you about first offender. Do you have a position on first offender, or you simply ask some questions about it?
I am comfortable with her taking it, given the length of the probated sentence. And however, I would defer to the court.
Okay. I know you're not commanding me, but you don't object.
No.
Okay. All right. That's what I was getting at. Because sometimes with charges this serious, Ms. Kallish clearly qualifies for first offender, but the state says, hey, someone got shot in the arm. It's not okay to do first offender. No one got shot in the arm. And there's clearly a precedent for first offender and home invasions involving Max Pritchett. So, okay. First offender is primarily an opportunity and a benefit. It means that while you will be under sentence for a long time, if I follow this recommendation, You don't have a conviction. So if you're trying to go back to school, get a job, keep a job, anything where someone says, hey, do you have a felony? You can check the box no, and you're not crossing your fingers behind your back. You will not. You will have this sentence, and it's a very real sentence. It's not a pretend sentence, but a first offender is someone who doesn't have a conviction. And if you navigate till you are 38, or whatever it would be, depending on the sentence I give you, and it's successful, and maybe it ends a little early because you're doing well, but whatever, at the end of that sentence, if you complete it successfully, you can work to have it all expunged. It wasn't a conviction to begin with, but you can have it even further removed from your record. That's the good side of first offender. You know someone personally for whom first offender didn't go well, and that's Mr. Pritchett. And I'm not saying you are he, but that's a great illustrative example. If we are together again in 6 months, not because I'm at Crave and you're helping me work out or Crunch or whatever it's called, but you're back in here because you got arrested for doing something, and it doesn't need to be as serious as this, but you didn't really tell us what the true arc is. The arc that's been illustrated is you may get pulled over for speeding, but that's going to be your engagement with law enforcement. But if we're wrong about that and your arc is elsewhere and you're back here because of a burglary or this or that, not only do you have new charges, but I have the ability, if the state proves that you violated your first offender probation, and that's a much lower burden. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's probable cause. It's not it's a preponderance of the evidence. It's not a lot. If the state proves that, I don't know what I do. It would depend on the circumstances, but I could revoke your first offender status and re-sentence you. And you have pled to, what's the maximum for the game? Is 5 to 20?
5 to 20.
Okay. So,
165.
yeah, it's a lot of years. You'd be dead if I were to revoke and sentence you to all of it. Now, you'd have to do something pretty extreme. There need to be some dead bodies piled up, but you need to understand the risk because that's a big old window. And so you could be back here and all you did was steal someone's car. Okay, wrong arc. Clearly, we were misled. All these people who took time out of their life to say, Lindsay's a great person, Ms. Kallish is a great person, you duped them, as I might say 5 years or 10 years, that's all within 0 to 160. And I'm emphasizing that because I need to make sure you understand the downside or the risk of first offender. It can all come tumbling down. And that's exactly what happened to Mr. Pritchett, not on his sentence in this case, but in that revocation at which you testified with Mr. Zimmerman's hose. So do you feel like you understand the pros and the cons of first offender?
Yes, sir.
Understanding them, do you want to be sentenced as a first offender?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I am sentencing you under the Probation Options Management Act. And that means that while you're on probation, if you have a technical violation, that would mean missing a meeting, or maybe once you test positive for something you shouldn't have in your system, you and probation can work that out. They might recommend you get some drug counseling or who knows what, if something like that happened, but you don't have to come back here. But if it's more serious, any kind of arrest, anything that would indicate, and the prosecution, the DA's office, and these investigators on the game, they are all over social media. And so if your face pops up and it's you and Voss Coleman or something like that, they're going to jump on that. I'm letting you know they're going to jump on it. And you saw it during the trial. And if I'm confronted with an Instagram or whatever the latest app is, and it's clear the photo was generated after today, that's you hanging out with gang folks. You might as well get arrested with guns and drugs. It's going to have the same impact because, again, you're representing, and you've demonstrated to many, your arc is this way and we'll find you over there. So you just need to understand how that will work while you're on probation. All right. I am sentencing you as follows. For counts 2 through 8, your sentence is 15 years to serve 2 months with the balance on probation. You've already served 71 days, so you get credit for the 2 months. Those will all run concurrently with each other. And your sentence on count 18 is the same, 15 years to serve 2 months, balance probated. I am adding a special condition that was not part of what was negotiated because the negotiations don't bind me. And it reflects, in my mind, the appropriate balance between the seriousness of what happened, the impact of what happened on the many victims, the risk that was involved, and frankly, the way in which your case has ultimately played out, where in contrast and comparing you to some of the other defendants, you will likely be the only one whose time in jail is relatively brief. But you will spend the first 10 weekends beginning on June, turn yourself in on a Friday evening, which would be May 31st. So that's a few Fridays from now. 10 consecutive weekends in the county jail. That's a condition of your probation. It's not a sentence of prison. You did the 2 months already, but for 10 consecutive weekends, you need to turn yourself in by 5 o'clock to the county jail. You'll get out by 5 o'clock on Sunday. And that first weekend starts on May 31st. The other special conditions of your probation are no contact with any of the victims in this case, which should generally be easy. It sounds like you knew a couple of them informally, but they're all dead to you now. And similarly, no contact with any of your 3 co-defendants. And then number 2, this is now condition 3 because of the first one I added. You need to not have any contact with anyone who is apparent to you to be a member of a street gang. That doesn't mean if you're working in a restaurant, this guy comes in and he's got tattoos that say to you, hey, you don't have to not serve that person. This would be, I'm gonna go meet people and I'm gonna socially interact with them, not through my work, but this is the group I wanna spend time with. That's not your group anymore. It doesn't sound like that's the group you want, no matter how flashy the lifestyle may seem, but that is designed to just be another guardrail. It's a prohibition on your sentence to keep you out of crowds that your participation in those groups got you to where you are now. Okay. I know you had asked for something about no gang activity, but that's going to be something that would lead to arrest anyway.
The only reason I asked for it was because it's statutorily mandated.
Okay. Well, you statutorily asked for it. All right. Anything that you want to add or any concerns that you have about the sentence, Mr. Hiles?
Nothing I want to add. I just want to hand you the
Thank you for putting the indictment number on it. Mr. Hiles, do you authorize someone from my office to sign the indictment indicating Ms. Kallish's first offender guilty plea to the counts we discussed?
Yes, I do.
All right, and we'll make sure that there's a null pros stamp for all the other counts. Mr. Zimmerman, do you have anything else that we need to discuss?
Kesh, give me 30 seconds because that's a change in the negotiations. Let me just discuss that with her real quickly.
Okay.
Nope, we're good on that, Your Honor. I would ask, is there a bid date associated with this?
So I thought about that, and I don't think so, because it's first offender, and I am open to engaging with, well, let me make clear so everyone who's listening understands. Mr. Zimmerman asked if I was going to set a behavioral incentive date. That, when one is imposed, can lead to the end of the sentence. But I think there was a fair amount of thought that went into what for me is an exceedingly long probationary sentence. I don't like super long probation sentences, more so though in a setting where it's going to be a tripwire for someone whose life may bend back into, you know what, I'm desperate and the way I'm gonna make my money is I'm gonna engage in a hustle. I don't see that right now for Ms. Kallish. That doesn't mean I'm treating her differently because she's privileged, but I think the hand that goes into the glove of first offender is a pretty long probationary term, so that we know not just 3 years down the road, but 5 or 7, Ms. Kallish has an incentive to continue heading on the arc that she has described and demonstrated over the last few years. The pandemic was terrible for many, many people, but that it was very much a silver lining for you, because it is rare that a defense attorney can say, let me tell you what my client has done for the last week, last month. How about the last 3 years? That's usually not what happens. I'm told, hey, it's been 2 weeks and she didn't get arrested. Well, I would hope not, because she's staying at home with the ankle monitor. But you've had plenty of time to show the world that you hadn't learned and hadn't changed your ways as a result of what you and your co-defendants put people through. So there's not a reason to celebrate the pandemic, but there's a reason to say that afforded you an opportunity that you made the most of. So that's why I'm not setting a behavioral incentive date, because I don't want the sentence to end early. That doesn't mean it couldn't become non-reporting pretty quickly. And that's a function of how well you do with probation. Probation officers are busy people, and they are mostly busy with people who are hard to supervise. If you make yourself easy to supervise, eventually the probation officer wants you off their docket, because what's the point? We always know where you are. Unsupervised probation is what you might then be striving for after you establish a number of months or years of no issues with probation. We can always revisit this several years down the road, but for now, I'm comfortable with that long time horizon, also in part because if we are all mistaken, or life throws a curveball at Ms. Kallish and she relapses, the wrong word, but shifts the way she approaches things and regresses, then there's something to work with. And I think that that's appropriate, again, given the severity of what we're dealing with. It's not a stolen car case.
We're with the court, whatever you want to do. Like, I don't have much to say to that. But,
Okay.
you know, to your point, the case, you know, well, Gall versus United States, similarly, it's sort of the same situation. Gall, college student, had a very long time in a federal case to better his life, and ended up getting a degree and owning a construction company. That's thankfully where we've had that time.
Yep.
And Lynn's been able to prove herself.
Yep. So that is, I guess, a long way of saying, let's talk again later if you want to see if it's appropriate to modify something. But this is a sentence that up front is going to be unpleasant on the weekends, and then Ms. Kallish can reinvest in work, school, family, friends, the things that she's demonstrated she's committed to over the last few years. And I suspect that the four of us won't ever be together again in this setting, I guess, unless Ms. Riley goes to trial. Ms. Kallish, do you have any questions about anything we discussed?
No, sir.
All right, last thing. We have someone from probation on this call, and she needs to give you reporting instructions. Ms. Tucson? Ms. Tucson? Well, she's trying to connect a second time. Maybe one of these will allow her to talk to us. We may have to revert to Ms. Tucson being here in person.
I'm back on. My internet went out. I apologize.
Okay. Can you
I
please?
just rejoined the call.
All right. Can you work with Ms. Kallish on reporting instructions, please?
Yes. So, seeing that you will be going to the jail that weekend of the 31st, I'm going to have you report June 4th. That's a Tuesday. Where do you live, Ms. Kallish?
Johns Creek.
Okay. So Johns Creek is still Fulton County, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Just barely.
Okay. All right. What is your address?
280.
Okay,
No, hold on. You don't need to. Mr. Zimmerman will email that to you. So what's the best way, or he can call you? What's the best way for Mr. Zimmerman to get you that information not on the record?
I could give my phone number and just call me and text it to me.
Okay.
Okay.
What is it?
404-308-7618.
Thank you.
Got it.
No problem.
I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. No?
No, she's reporting to the, is it ACDC now? Where are the women held? Where are we going? Atlanta jail?
I think you have
I
to be
think-
booked at Rice Street.
Yeah, I think you have to go to Rice Street.
Okay.
So, yep, Deputy Gordon's nodding his head. So, by 5 PM, I should have added this. Don't skip a weekend and reach out saying, hey, something came up. If there's a family emergency, you know you can't make a weekend, let Mr. Zimmerman know. He knows how to reach me. And that way, when I get this call from probation saying, she didn't show up, I'll know why you didn't show up, because Mr. Zimmerman will have said, my gosh, dad is sick. She's going to be with dad in the hospital. That's the kind of thing that would say, okay, to that weekend. You just add it on at the back. It's not okay, skip that weekend. It just would become weekend number 11 because you skip number 2, whenever it is. But otherwise, that's the kind of thing where folks like, I'm just going to skip one of the weekends. We obviously keep track. And then usually what I do is say, fine, it's not working having it on weekends. How about we'll just do 3 weeks and consecutive, and that's less good. So make sure you make those deadlines, but if something comes up, let Mr. Zimmerman know. Okay. All right.
Thank you for your time.
You bet.
Thank you.
Goodbye.